The night was darker than any sky Ethan had ever flown under. His small ship shook as fire licked across the wings. Warning lights screamed inside the cockpit, and smoke filled the air. Ethan coughed hard, gripping the controls with all his strength. "Hold. Together? Just hold together a little longer," he whispered, but the ship refused to listen. A sharp explosion sent sparks raining over the panels. He had only seconds left before the engine failed completely. Through the cracked glass of his cockpit, Ethan saw the planet below. It was not the one he had planned to land on. His navigation system had broken hours earlier after passing through a strange storm in space. The planet looked green and alive, with forests stretching out endlessly and strange rivers glowing with silver light. The ship's alarms grew louder. Ethan pulled every lever he could, trying to soften the crash. The nose of the ship burned red as it entered the planet's atmosphere. His body pressed against the seat, his vision blurring. Then came the impact. The ship tore through trees, breaking branches like thunder. Metal screamed as the craft slid across the ground, finally smashing into a rocky hill. The crash threw Ethan forward, and everything went black. When he awoke, silence filled the air. His ears rang, and his body ached. The smell of burned metal and smoke clung to his skin. Slowly, Ethan unbuckled himself and crawled out of the broken cockpit. The night air outside was cool, filled with strange scents of flowers and wet earth. The sky above shimmered with 2 moons, one silver, one pale blue. Ethan stared, breathing heavily. He had survived, but where was he? The forest around him glowed, faintly, as if the plants themselves carried light. Insects with crystal wings floated in the air, shining softly like fireflies. He touched one of the glowing trees, its bark warm under his hand, as if it were alive. But before he could admire more, he heard voices at first. He thought it was the wind, but the sound grew clearer, many voices whispering, chanting, almost. Singing, his heart jumped. He was not alone. Ethan crouched low, his instincts sharp from years of survival training. He peered through the trees. Torches of golden fire moved closer, carried by tall figures walking in a group. As they came into view, his breath caught. They were all women. Not one man stood among them. Their skin shimmered in strange tones, silver, bronze, even faint violet under the torchlight. Their hair fell in long waves, braided with beads and feathers. Their eyes glowed faintly, not like humans, but like wild animals in the dark. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. He had expected danger, maybe wild beasts or alien soldiers, but not this. The women saw the crashed ship and gasped. They moved quickly, surrounding it in a circle. Some whispered prayers. Others pointed at Ethan, as if he were some mythical creature. One woman stepped forward, taller than the rest, carrying a staff carved from black stone. She raised her hand, her glowing eyes fixed on Ethan. "He is real." She whispered in a language Ethan strangely understood. Her voice echoed, soft, yet heavy with meaning. A man. The group erupted in gasps and murmurs. They began moving toward him, their expressions a mix of awe and hunger. Ethan stumbled back, his body still weak from the crash. "Stay back," he warned, raising his hands. But his words seemed to have the opposite effect. The women drew closer, their gazes burning into him. Some reached out as if to touch him, to claim him. Ethan's mind raced. Where were the men of this world? Why were these women looking at him as if he were not a person, but property? One of the younger women whispered to the others, loud enough for Ethan to hear, "He belongs to us now." The words sent a chill down his spine. He wanted to run, but his legs were weak. The circle of women closed tighter, their eyes locked on him like hunters cornering prey. The tall woman with the staff stepped forward again. She looked at Ethan not with fear, but with certainty, as if his arrival had been foretold. "You are the only one," she said slowly. "Our world has waited for this." Ethan's chest pounded. He didn't know what they meant, but every instinct told him one thing: he was in grave danger. The women's whispers grew louder, almost desperate. Some argued in their strange tongue who would take him, who would touch him first, who had the right to claim him. To them, he was not a man, not a traveler, not a survivor. He was a prize. Ethan clenched his fists. He had survived war, storms, and now a crash. But this was different. This was not a battle of strength. It was something deeper, stranger, and far more terrifying. He looked at the glowing eyes surrounding him and realized the awful truth. He had landed on a planet with no men. And every woman here thought he was public property. The night stretched long, the torches burning bright around. Him, Ethan's crash had been only the beginning. What awaited him in this strange world was far more dangerous than fire or storms. Because sometimes, survival's not about fighting monsters. Sometimes, survival is about escaping those who see you as theirs. And Ethan had just become the most wanted man on the entire planet. The torches moved with the women as they circled tighter around Ethan. His heart pounded as he tried to keep calm, though every nerve in his body screamed at him to run. But where could he go? Behind him was the wrecked ship, nothing but twisted metal and smoke. Ahead of him were at least 20 tall, alien women with glowing eyes, all staring at him like he was not human, but prey. The leader, the woman with the black stone staff, stepped closer. Her eyes glowed a deeper silver than the others, and her voice carried a weight of command. "Do not fear," she said slowly, her strange language bending into words Ethan somehow understood. "You are safe. With us. Safe." Ethan almost laughed. Nothing in her eyes said safe. Everything in her gaze said possession. The women whispered among themselves, their voices mixing like a storm of buzzing bees. Some sounded excited, others cautious, and a few even jealous. He must belong to the queen. One voice whispered, "No, he should be shared." Another hissed. Ethan's gut twisted. They weren't talking about helping him, they were talking about owning him. The staff woman raised her hand, silencing the crowd. "He comes with me. The queen must see him first." The whispers turned into groans and protests, but none dared to disobey. They moved forward, surrounding Ethan tighter, forcing him to walk with them. Two women gripped his arms firmly, though they tried to act gentle. He pulled back, but their grip was like iron. "I can walk on my own," Ethan snapped. One of them smirked. Humans are still stubborn, even after centuries. The words shocked him. Centuries. Did they? No humans before? Before he could ask, they pushed him along. The walk through the forest was unreal. The glowing plants lit their path, and the sound of strange animals echoed in the distance. Ethan caught glimpses of sharp eyes watching him from the shadows wild. Beasts, massive and silent. But none dared to approach the women. It was clear they were predators here. Soon, the trees opened into a valley. Ethan froze. A massive city stretched before him, carved into stone cliffs and glowing with rivers of silver light. Towers rose high, built from crystal-like rock that reflected the twin moons. Bridges connected the cliffs, and thousands of women walked the paths, their glowing eyes turning toward Ethan the moment he appeared. The air shifted. The whispers grew louder. "A man. Is it true?" "Impossible." The women in the city rushed forward, filling the walkways and balconies. Their gazes fell on Ethan like a flood, some filled with awe, others with hunger. He felt stripped bare, as if every eye was claiming a piece of him. Ethan clenched his fists. He was not an object. He was not theirs. But the looks told a different story. They led him into a great hall inside the cliff. The walls glowed with patterns of gold light, like veins running through the rock. At the end of the hall sat a throne, and upon it, a tall figure, cloaked in deep blue silk. The queen. Her eyes glowed brighter than all the others, and her hair shimmered silver, braided with jewels that sparkled under the torchlight. She rose. Slowly, her gaze never leaving Ethan. The crowd bowed. But Ethan stayed standing, his body tense. The queen's lips curved into a small smile. "So it is true. A man has come to us." Her voice was smooth, but carried a dangerous edge. She walked toward Ethan, every step echoing in the hall. The crowd watched in silence, their breaths held. When she stood before him, she reached out a hand and touched his face. Ethan flinched back, but her touch followed like a chain. "Warm," she whispered. "Alive. He is not a spirit, not an illusion." She turned to the hall, raising her voice. "Our world has been blessed." The hall erupted in cheers. Some clapped, others cried. The sound was overwhelming. Ethan clenched his jaw. "I'm not a blessing. I'm a person. I don't belong to anyone here." The queen tilted her head, her smile never fading. "Belong? No. You belong to all." The words sank into his chest like a blade. The crowd roared in approval. There. Voices shaking the hall. "No." Ethan shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. "I'm not your property." Silence fell again, heavy and sharp. The queen studied him, amused by his defiance. "Strong," she whispered, almost to herself. "Even after the crash, even surrounded by us, he resists, just like the old stories." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What stories?" The queen smiled wider. "Our world once knew men. Long ago, before the Great War. But they perished. Their bodies burned, their bloodlines ended. We have lived without them for hundreds of years, until now." Ethan's stomach turned. Hundreds of years with no men. And now he was here, the only one. The queen raised her staff, the same black stone as the woman who had first found him. Its tip glowed faintly. "Hear me," she called out. "This man is ours. He will live among us, and through him, our world will be reborn." The crowd erupted again, chanting, cheering. The sound was deafening. Ethan's heart raced. They didn't see him as a person. They saw him as a tool, prize, a solution to their broken history. And no one cared what he wanted. That night they did not let him rest. Servants brought him food, but their eyes never left him. Women lined the walls, watching him breathe, watching him eat, whispering to each other as if he was not human but an animal in a cage. Ethan sat in silence, staring at the glowing walls of the palace. Every whisper echoed in his ears. Property, prize, tool. He closed his eyes, gripping the edge of the bed they had given him. He had survived the crash. But this was worse, because here, survival was not about fighting beasts or storms. It was about keeping his freedom in a world where every woman believed he had none. And as the palace lights dimmed, Ethan made a silent promise. He would not bow. Not to the queen, not to the women, not to anyone, no matter what they planned for him, would find a way to stay human. The first rays of twin moons spilled across the palace chamber, casting silver light on Ethan's face. He had barely slept. The night had been filled with whispers outside his door, footsteps echoing down the stone corridors, and the constant feeling of eyes watching him even in darkness. By morning, he understood one thing clearly. They did not see him as human. They saw him as property. The heavy door creaked open, and a group of women entered. Their robes shimmered like liquid glass, and their hair was braided with beads that clicked softly as they walked. They carried trays of food-strange fruits that glowed faintly, bowls of steaming broth that smelled sweet and bitter at the same time. But they did not serve him like guests were served. They placed the food down, then stood in a circle around him, studying him with glowing eyes, whispering. Judging one of them stepped closer. She reached out and touched his arm, her fingers tracing his skin as if testing its texture. So warm. She said in awe. Another giggled. "His skin is softer than I imagined, but strong too." Ethan pulled his arm back, his eyes flashing. "With anger? I'm not an object for you to touch." The room went silent. The women stared at him, confused, almost offended. "Not an object?" one repeated. She tilted her head as if he had spoken nonsense. "But you are the man. You are here for us." Ethan stood, towering slightly above most of them. "I'm here because I crashed. I don't belong to you or anyone." The circle of women shifted, their whispers rising again. Some frowned, others smirked. A A few laughed as if his words were childish. Then the door opened again. The queen entered. Presence silenced the room instantly. She walked with slow, deliberate steps, her silver hair catching the moonlight.
Ow.
The women bowed their heads and moved aside, leaving Ethan standing alone in the center. The queen's eyes locked on him. You speak of belonging as if you have a choice. Ethan's jaw tightened. I do have a choice. I'm not your property. The queen's lips curved into a thin smile. She stepped closer, circling him slowly, like a predator sizing up prey. In your world, perhaps men are free. But here, freedom is an illusion. You are the only one left of your kind. That makes you priceless, and what is priceless must be shared. The word shared made Ethan's stomach twist. The queen raised her staff. The black stone at its tip pulsed faintly, sending a ripple of light across the chamber. The women gasped and lowered themselves to their knees. Today, the queen declared, our people will see him. They will know he is real, and they will decide how he is to be used. Ethan's fists clenched. I'm not some thing for people to use. The queen turned her head, her smile calm, but sharp as a blade. You are not a thing, human. You are a resource. Those words cut deeper than any insult. They led him into the grand square of the city. Thousands of women filled the space, standing on bridges, balconies, rooftops, every eye glowing with hunger, curiosity, or desire. The air trembled with whispers as Ethan was pulled forward by guards, his wrists bound with glowing rope that hummed against his skin. He stumbled once, but the guards yanked him upright. The crowd roared not with anger, but with excitement. Look at him. A man. Alive. Finally our chance. The queen raised her hand and the square fell silent. She stood tall, her voice carrying across the stone walls. Sisters of Avalora, she called. For generations we have lived without men. For generations we have fought to survive, our bloodlines thinning, our strength fading. But today our destiny changes. Behold the man. She pointed her staff at Ethan. The crowd erupted into cheers, screams, chants. Women surged forward, reaching out their hands as if trying to touch him. Ethan's heart pounded. He had been in battles before, surrounded by enemies, but this was different. These women didn't want to kill him. They wanted to own him. One woman broke from the crowd and rushed forward, her hands grabbing at his shirt. He should be mine. I will bear his children first. Guards pulled her back, but more surged forward, voices rising into chaos. No, the queen must keep him. Belongs to all of us. He belongs to me. The air turned wild, their voices crashing like thunder. Ethan struggled against the glowing ropes, fury burning in his chest. I don't belong to anyone, he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. For a moment, silence returned. Thousands of glowing eyes turned to him, shocked by his defiance. Queen stepped forward, her staff striking the stone ground with a heavy crack. The sound echoed across the square. You will learn, she said softly, her voice like velvet wrapping a dagger. You will learn that here, a man is not a man. He is property of the people. The sooner you accept that, the easier it will be. Ethan glared at her, breathing hard. Then I'll never make it easy. A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. Some women gasped. Others whispered. A few even smiled with admiration. Defiance narrowed. Defiance, she said. How dangerous. She raised her staff again, and the ropes around Ethan's wrists tightened until his skin burned. Pain shot through his arms, but he clenched his teeth, refusing to cry out. The queen studied him, her smile returning. Yes, you are strong. That will make this more entertaining. She lowered her staff. Take him back to the palace. Tomorrow, the council will decide how best to distribute him. The crowd roared with approval. The guards yanked Ethan back toward the palace, the chance of thousands chasing him through the city streets. Back in his chamber, Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, his wrists still burning from the ropes. He stared at the glowing walls, his mind racing. They truly believed he was property. They truly believed they had the right to use him, to share him, to own him. But deep inside, under the fear and the anger, a fire burned. He would not be broken. He would not be claimed if they wanted him to be property. He would show them what it meant to be human instead. And humanity was never meant to be owned. The palace felt colder that night, even though the walls glowed faintly with their golden veins. Ethan sat on the stone bed, his wrists raw from the glowing ropes that had only been removed when the guards pushed him into his chamber. He stared at the ceiling, his mind replaying the Queen's words over and over. Property, resource, shared. He clenched his fists till his nails dug into his palms. No, he whispered to himself. I won't let them decide my life. But how could one man resist an entire planet? The heavy door creaked open again. Ethan tensed. A line of guards entered, their armor shining with silver plates. Behind them came the Queen. She wore no crown, but she didn't need one. Her presence filled the room, commanding silence. Her silver hair flowed freely, and her eyes glowed like moonlight. The guards bowed and stepped back, closing the door. Now it was only Ethan and the Queen. She walked slowly toward him, her long robe trailing across the stone floor like water. You are restless, she said softly, her voice smooth but sharp underneath. Ethan stood, his muscles tight. I'm not restless. I'm angry. The Queen tilted her head, studying him like he was some rare animal. Anger is good. Anger means fire. Fire means life. That is why you are valuable. I'm not valuable, Ethan snapped. I'm not a thing to measure. I'm a person. You don't get to decide what I am. Her lips curved into a small smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. She stepped closer, close enough that Ethan could see the faint silver patterns glowing on her skin. Like living tattoos. You are in my world, she whispered. Here, I decide everything. Ethan refused to step back. Then maybe your world needs to change. For the first time, the Queen's smile faded. She studied him in silence, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly. Then she let out a low laugh. You speak boldly for someone in chains. Do you not see human? You are the first man to stand in this palace in centuries. The last men who lived on this planet died long before I was born. Their bloodline vanished. Their voices are dust. And yet here you are, alive. Strong, defiant. You are a gift. I'm not your gift, Ethan growled. The Queen's voice hardened. You are mine. The words hit the chamber like thunder. Ethan's chest tightened, his anger boiling. No, he said firmly. I don't belong to you or anyone. She stepped closer still, so close he could feel her breath against his skin. You think you have a choice? You think you can resist me? You're one man surrounded by thousands of women who see you as the key to their future? Do you know what that means? It means I'm in more danger than I've ever been, Ethan replied. The Queen's eyes glimmered with amusement. Danger, yes, but also power. Even now the council debates what to do with you. Some want you given to the people, others want you kept in chains. I alone say you must stay with me. I claim you. Ethan's pulse quickened. He laughed bitterly. You claim me? Like I'm a piece of land? Like I'm an object in your treasury? Yes, the Queen answered calmly. Because here, a man is not free. A man is survival. And survival belongs to the Queen. Her words sent a cold chill through Ethan's chest. He had fought enemies with weapons, faced death in storms, even survived the crash. But this was something deeper. This was control wrapped in silk and honey. The Queen reached out and touched his chest, her hand pressing against his heart. This beat, she whispered, belongs to me now. Through you, our world will live again. Ethan grabbed her wrist, pushing her hand away. His grip was firm, his eyes blazing. No, my life doesn't belong to you. My heart doesn't belong to you. And my body will never be yours to claim. For a moment, silence stretched between them. The Queen's guards outside shifted, as if sensing tension. Then the Queen laughed softly, though her smile was sharp as a blade. You fight well, human. You remind me of the old stories, the tales of men who challenged even the gods. But stories always end the same way. The world bends to power. Power belongs to me. She stepped back, lifting her black stone staff. Its glow filled the room with cold light. Tomorrow, the council will see your spirit. They will see whether you break or whether you bend. Either way, you will belong to Avalora. Ethan's jaw tightened. If they want to break me, they'll have to try harder. The Queen's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, Ethan thought he saw something other than calm, something like curiosity. You are different, she whispered. Perhaps too different. That may be your strength. Or your end. She turned, her robe sweeping across the floor as she walked away. At the door, she paused. Without looking back, she said, "Sleep well, human. Tomorrow you begin your new life is mine." The door closed behind her, leaving Ethan alone again in the dim glow of the chamber. He sat down heavily, running his hands over his face. The Queen had spoken with absolute certainty, as if his future was already written. But Ethan knew one thing. No matter what they tried, no matter how many women believed he was their property, he would never give in. He whispered to himself in the silence, his voice steady, "I belong to no one." And deep inside, he made another promise. He made another promise if the Queen thought she could claim him. She was about to learn what it meant to challenge a human, because humanity could be caged, but it could never be owned. The next morning, Ethan was dragged from his chamber by 2 armored guards. The glowing ropes burned against his wrists again as they pulled him through the palace halls. His feet scraped across the polished stone floors, and every turn revealed more of the strange city carved into cliffs and glowing rivers. He knew where they were taking him, the council chamber. The Queen had promised it. The air was heavy, the silence broken only by the clicking of the guards' boots. But Ethan noticed something strange as they passed through the corridors. Not every pair of glowing eyes looked at him with hunger or greed. Some looked different. Some looked curious. Some looked almost sympathetic. He caught the gaze of a young warrior standing among the palace guards. Her armor was scratched, her hair tied back, and unlike the others, her eyes didn't burn with desire. Instead, she looked at him as if she saw a person, not property. For a brief second, their eyes met. She gave the smallest shake of her head, as if warning him to stay silent. But before he could think, the guard shoved him forward into the great council chamber. The chamber was vast, carved into the rock like a temple. Dozens of women sat in high stone seats that curved in a circle, their robes flowing with colors that glowed faintly in the torchlight. At the center of it all sat the Queen on her throne, her black stone staff resting in her hands. The crowds. Whispers filled the chamber the moment Ethan entered. He resists. He refuses to bow, then break him. The Queen raised her hand, silencing them. Her voice rang clear. "Today we decide the fate of the man." The council members leaned forward, their glowing eyes fixed on Ethan. One spoke first, her voice sharp. "He must be shared. Every woman has the right. He belongs to the people, not to the Queen alone." Another counselor slammed her staff against the stone. "No, if we share him, he will be torn apart by desire and jealousy. He must be controlled, kept in chains, used only when needed." The chamber buzzed with arguments. Voices clashed like blades. Some wanted him free to walk the city, but always watched. Others wanted him locked away, visited only for duty. Through it all, the Queen watched silently, her glowing eyes fixed on Ethan like a predator waiting for its prey to weaken. Finally, she rose. "Enough." The voices fell silent. She turned to Ethan. "You have heard their words. They argue about how best to use you. But I'm curious, what do you say for yourself?" Ethan stood tall, though his wrists ached from the ropes. His voice was steady. "I say I'm not property. I say I'm not a tool. I say I'm not yours, not theirs, not anyone's. I am a man, and I decide who I am." Gasps filled the chamber. Some women scoffed, some laughed, some looked shocked. A few even clapped softly before being silenced by glares. The Queen smiled. Faintly, but her eyes were sharp. "And what if we decide otherwise?" Ethan took a step forward, the ropes glowing hotter as he pulled against them. "Then you'll see what it means to try and own a human. We don't break, we fight. For a heartbeat, silence filled the room. Then the council erupted again, louder, wilder, more divided than before. The queen lifted her staff, silencing. Then once more, we will not decide today. The man will remain in the palace until I see fit. That night, Ethan sat in his chamber again, his mind racing. He had spoken boldly, but what now? He was still trapped, still surrounded by thousands who saw him as a prize. A soft knock broke the silence. The door creaked open, and the young warrior he had noticed earlier stepped inside. She closed the door quickly, her movements sharp and cautious. Ethan stood, tense. "Who are you?" She pressed a finger to her lips. "Quiet. If they hear me, I'll be punished." Her voice was firm, but not unkind. She stepped closer, her glowing eyes softer than most. "My name is Kayla." "I don't agree with them. Not all of us do." Ethan's chest tightened. "You mean you don't see me as property?" Kayla shook her head. "I see you as a person. I was taught the old stories that men were once partners, not possessions, that they fought beside us, not beneath us. But the queen doesn't want those stories remembered." Her words hit Ethan like fire. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then help me. If you know the truth, help me escape." Kayla's jaw tightened. "Escape? You can't. Not yet. The city is full of guards, and the queen's spies are everywhere. If you try to run now, they'll catch you and make sure you never stand again." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then what do I do? Sit here while they argue over who owns me?" Kayla looked him in the eyes, her expression steady. "Oh, you fight, but not with your fists. You fight with your heart. Show them you are more than property. Show them you are human. If you can win enough of us to your side, the queen cannot hold you forever." Her words struck deep. Ethan realized she was right. He couldn't fight the entire planet with fists and defiance alone. But maybe he could fight with something stronger. Humanity. Kayla touched his arm lightly, her eyes flickering with something unspoken. "Be careful, human. Many will try to claim you. Some will try to break you. But some of us—" She hesitated, her voice softer now. "Some of us will stand with you." Before he could answer, she slipped out the door, leaving him alone again. That night, Ethan lay awake, staring at the glowing ceiling. For the first time since the crash, he felt a spark of hope. Not everyone believed he was property. Not everyone wanted to own him. And if he could win more hearts, if he could awaken the old stories buried in their memory, maybe, just maybe, he could turn this planet's fate around. But one thought haunted him most as he closed his eyes. If Kayla was willing to risk everything to speak with him, how long before the queen found out? The city of Avalora buzzed with restless energy. Rumors of the humans spread like wildfire. Some whispered that he was a savior. Others muttered that he was a dangerous rebel who might destroy their fragile society. And now the queen had called. For a public trial, Ethan stood in the palace courtyard, his wrists bound once more by glowing ropes. Above him, bridges and balconies overflowed with women. Their glowing eyes peered down, eager to watch the trial of the only man alive on their planet. The queen appeared on her high platform, her silver hair glimmering under the twin moons. The black staff in her hand pulsed faintly, as if alive. Her voice cut through the noise like steel. "Today," she declared, "we decide the man's fate. Shall he belong to me to ensure order? Or shall he belong to the people to ensure survival? The council will hear, and the people will see." The crowd roared. Some chanted the queen's name. Others shouted demands to share him. Voices crashed like a storm. Ethan's chest tightened, but he stood tall, refused to bow. The council sat in a half-circle at the front of the courtyard. One by one, they spoke. An elder rose first. Her voice was cold. "The man must be given to the people. He is too valuable to be kept by one woman alone. Every sister has the right to bear his children." Another counselor stood, her tone sharp. "No, he must remain with the queen. Only she has the strength to control him. If we share him, jealousy and war will tear us apart." The arguments grew louder, harsher. Ethan listened, his anger building. They spoke as if he were not even there, as if he were a tool laid on the table, not a man standing before them. Finally, the queen raised her staff, silencing the debate. She turned her gaze on Ethan. You have heard their voices. Now, human, speak. What say you? Do you accept belonging to your queen or to the people? The crowd fell into a tense silence. All eyes burned into him. Ethan's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, his voice carrying across the courtyard. I accept neither. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The queen's smile faded, her eyes narrowing. Am not property, Ethan continued, his voice stronger now. Not yours, not the people's. I am human. I choose my own path. I decide who I am. You will not decide for me. The silence broke into chaos. Some women shouted in anger, calling him ungrateful, foolish, arrogant. Others murmured with shock. And still others, though quieter, whispered with something like hope. The queen struck her staff against the stone, and the ground seemed to tremble. Her voice thundered defiance. You stand against Avalora itself. You dare deny your duty. Glared up at her. What you call duty, I call slavery. You may think you can chain me. You may think you can force me. But I will never be yours. I will never be a tool for your survival. The crowd exploded again, the voices splitting. Some cursed him. Some cheered. The chamber of the city itself seemed divided, and then from the balcony above, familiar voice cut through the noise. He is right. The crowd fell into silence. All heads turned toward the voice. It was Kayla, the young warrior. She stood tall, her hand on the hilt of her blade. Her glowing eyes burned, not with desire, but with conviction. We cannot treat him like property, she called out. The old stories tell of men who fought beside us, not beneath us. If we chain him, we destroy the very chance he brings. If we claim him, we prove we are no better than the war that killed our men centuries ago. The queen's gaze turned, sharp as a blade. Silence, Kayla. You speak treason. But Kayla did not falter. She looked at Ethan, her voice steady. You are not alone, human. Some of us will stand with you. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Women whispered to each other, torn between loyalty to their queen and the spark of Kayla's defiance. The queen's staff glowed brighter, the black stone pulsing like a heartbeat. Her voice was cold. Enough. His choice is clear. He rejects us. Then let him face the consequence. Ethan's ropes tightened suddenly, glowing hotter, searing into his skin. Pain shot through his arms, but he gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. The queen raised her staff high, the air trembling with her power. By the will of Avalora, the man shall stop. Kayla leaped down from the balcony landing. In the courtyard, with a sharp clang of her armor, she drew her blade, pointing it at the queen's guards. If you punish him, you punish us all who believe the old ways. You wish to start a war in your own city, my queen? Gasps filled the air. Some women cheered her bravery. Others cursed her foolishness. Ethan's heart pounded. For the first time since the crash, he wasn't alone. Someone was standing beside him. The queen's eyes blazed with fury, but her smile returned slowly. So be it, if the human wishes to fight his fate, then let him fight. Tomorrow he will face the trial of claim. If he survives, he may prove his freedom. If he fails, he will belong to us all. The crowd erupted again, cheers, chants, cries of excitement. Brett, the trial of claim. The words hung heavy in the air like thunder before a storm. Ethan breathed hard, the rope still burning into his skin. He had no idea what the trial was. But one thing was clear. It would decide everything. The queen lowered her staff, her smile sharp. The choice is yours, human. Fight or surrender. Either way, you will not leave this world unchanged. That night, in his chamber, Kayla slipped inside once more. Her voice was urgent. You must be ready. The trial of claim is no game. It was once used to test leaders, warriors, even kings. No one has survived it in decades. Ethan's jaw clenched. Then I'll be the first. Kella's eyes softened. You don't understand. The queen isn't testing your strength. Testing whether you can be broken. If you lose, she will own you. If you win, she hesitated, her voice dropping lower. If you win, you may change everything. Ethan looked at her, determination burning in his chest. Then I'll win. Not just for me, for you. For anyone here who wants more than chains. Kella's lips trembled as she whispered, Be careful, human. You carry more than your own fate now. You carry ours too. As the twin moons shone outside the palace windows, Ethan sat in silence, preparing for the trial. His body was bruised, his wrists burned, but his spirit stood tall. Tomorrow, he would face the trial of claim. Tomorrow, he would decide not just his fate, but the fate of an entire world. And for the first time, Ethan felt it deep in his bones. This was not just survival anymore. This was war. The morning of the trial came with heavy silence. The city of Avalora was awake long before the suns rose. Thousands of women filled the grand arena carved into the cliffs, their glowing eyes fixed on the circle of stone at the center, and in that circle stood Ethan. His wrists were free for the first time since the crash, but not as a gift. It was part of the trial. If he was to prove himself, he had to face it on his own. His body ached, his clothes torn from the crash and days of captivity. But his spirit burned brighter than ever. Across from him, on a raised platform, sat the queen. Her staff glowed faintly in her hand, and her smile was calm, but her eyes promised cruelty. Beside her sat the council, watching with sharp eyes, waiting to see if the human would break or rise. The queen's voice echoed across the arena. Behold, the trial of claim. For centuries it has tested those who sought freedom. Few survived. Most bent their heads and accepted their fate. Today the human chooses defiance. Today he will prove whether he is property or something more. The crowd roared, their voices shaking the air. Some chanted for his death, shouted to claim him. And somewhere, scattered among them, a few voices whispered prayers of hope. A gate opened at the far end of the arena. From the shadows emerged a beast. It was massive, taller than 3 men. Its body covered in dark scales that shimmered like metal. Now its jaws dripped with glowing venom, and its eyes burned red like fire. The women cheered wildly, their hunger for blood filling the air. Ethan's stomach tightened, but he did not step back. He clenched his fists, breathing steady. He had no weapons, no armor, nothing but his body and his will. The queen's voice cut through the cheers. Survive the beast, and you may choose your fate. Fail, and your fate will be ours.
Oh.
Beast roared, the ground trembling beneath its weight. Then it charged. Ethan dove aside, the creature's claws smashing into stone where he had stood. Dust exploded into the air. The crowd screamed in excitement. He rolled, scrambled to his feet, and ran toward the wall of the arena. The beast turned, its glowing saliva hissing as it hit the stone. Ethan searched the ground desperately. No sword, no spear. Only rocks and broken fragments of stone. He snatched one up, the sharp edge cutting into his palm. The beast lunged again. Ethan threw the stone with all his strength. It struck the beast's eye, making it roar in pain. The crowd gasped. Ethan's chest heaved, his muscles burning, but his mind was sharp. He had fought battles before, faced enemies stronger than him. Strength wasn't enough. It was about survival. The beast charged again, its jaws wide. Ethan sprinted forward, then at the last second, dove beneath it, sliding across the dust. He grabbed a broken spearhead from the ground, likely left from trials before his hand rolled to his feet. The beast turned, furious, its tail whipping across the arena. Ethan ducked, the tail smashing into stone with bone-breaking force. He gripped the spearhead tight. "Come on," he muttered, his voice shaking but strong. "Let's finish this." The beast lunged one final time, its jaws snapping for his head. Ethan dodged left, leapt onto its back, drove the spearhead deep into the wound near its eye. The creature screamed, thrashing violently, but Ethan held on with everything he had. He twisted the weapon deeper until the beast finally collapsed. With a thunderous crash, its body twitching before lying still, silence fell over the arena. Then the crowd erupted shouts, gasps, cheers, screams. Some cried out in rage, furious that he had survived. Others shouted with awe, their voices chanting his name. Ethan, Ethan. The queen's smile had vanished. Her grip on the staff tightened, her glowing eyes locked on him. Ethan stood in the center of the arena, his body shaking with exhaustion, blood dripping from his hands. But his eyes were steady, his voice strong as he shouted, "I am not your property. I am not your prize. I am human and humanity belongs to no one." Words echoed across the stone, drowning even the crowd's roar. For a heartbeat, the entire city seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the voices of the people shifted. Not all, not even most, but enough. Some women lowered their heads, ashamed. Others cheered not for the queen, but for him. And in that moment, something broke the illusion that the queen held all power. Kayla appeared at the edge of the arena, her sword drawn. She raised it high. "He is free," she shouted. "He has earned it. He is no property. He is a partner." The chant spread. More voices joined her, louder, bolder. "Free, free, free." The queen rose from her throne, fury burning in her eyes. She slammed her staff down, sending a ripple of energy across the arena, silencing the crowd. "You think this changes anything?" she hissed. "You think you are free? You belong to this world. Human. You cannot escape it." Ethan raised his head, his voice calm but powerful. "Maybe I can't escape, but I can choose. I choose not to bow." The queen's eyes narrowed, her staff glowing brighter, but the council shifted uneasily. Too many voices now called for his freedom. Too many hearts had turned. Finally, the eldest counselor rose, her voice trembling but firm. "He has passed. The trial, by our law, he cannot be claimed. He is free." The crowd roared again, this time louder than ever, the chant shaking the cliffs. "Free! Free! Free!" The queen's face darkened, but she said nothing. She turned sharply and left the arena, her robe trailing like a shadow. Later that night, Ethan stood on the balcony of the palace, the wind cool against his face. The city below glowed with silver rivers and golden lights, but the whispers had changed. He was no longer seen only as property. He was something more, a symbol. Kayla stood beside him, her hand resting lightly on the hilt of her sword. "Done what no one thought possible. You gave them hope." Ethan looked at her, his voice steady. "I didn't win because I'm strong. I won because I refused to bow. That's what humanity is. That's what they need to learn." Kayla smiled faintly. "And teach us, walk with us. Not as a tool, not as property, but as a partner." Ethan breathed deeply, the weight of the world heavy on his shoulders, but his heart steady. He had survived the crash, the queen, and the trial. But this was only the beginning, because freedom was not just for him, it was for them all. And as the twin moons rose high above the alien sky, Ethan whispered to himself the truth he had carried. Since the crash, humanity cannot be owned, humanity prevails.